Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hansen and Pat McClain would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Allworth's Money Matters. I'm Scott Hansen.
I'm Pat McClain.
Thanks for joining us as we talk about financial matters on this 4th of July weekend, Independence Weekend.
Yes.
And can we still say Independence Weekend?
Well,
I love 4th of July. Anyway, what's the financial program? We're talking about financial matters and help you make wise choices with your finances. And we're both practicing financial advisors. Spend our weekdays helping people like yourself, and we broadcast on the weekends being your financial advisors on the air. So glad that you are with us as you're listening to this program. And our objective for this particular show is that you will leave knowing more than when you came.
About mostly around retirement planning, money in general.
Yeah, money stuff.
Yes.
But it is the 4th of July weekend.
Yes. And
for, I think 18 years in a row, we watched fireworks from a boat in Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
Family tradition. Then last year, COVID, and I guess that was canceled because you couldn't have fireworks.
Yes.
And then it's canceled again this year.
Why this year?
Apparently, they needed to make the decision on whether they should order a few months ago when it was still looking California. Actually, it was Nevada. Nevada's where they did it.
Okay. On the California-Nevada border, but they launched the fireworks from Nevada itself.
From the a barge in the lake.
Yeah.
Anyway, no fireworks this year.
So you take your boat out on 4th of July. This sounds a little pretentious. You know that.
I didn't mean for that to sound that way. It's not like some big yacht. It's a boat. Runabout boat. I mean, it's I've had a boat for 24 years.
Yes. So it's not like, pretentious. It's just like a little family boaster.
Yes. Nothing.
You're not like out on a 50-foot yacht.
No.
Yeah, you're not like on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
No, I don't understand why I would want a big yacht like that anyway. Yeah. But so we're gonna have to make.
But you know, it's interesting though when we talk about things being canceled. Both Scott and I were in New York City. Was it last week?
A week ago.
Last week. It is. I was amazed. It's up and running. There were lines out the restaurants and traffic and everything that New York city's about.
I mean, so I've traveled some during the pandemic, and I remember in the height of, this is May of last year, and I traveled through the Denver airport, and I stood and looked down at the security where there's usually several hundred people in line for security, and there was like 2 people.
It wasn't that way this time.
And it feels exactly like it did pre-pandemic. Now, New York probably wasn't as crowded as normal, but there's so many of the restaurants had failed, didn't make it.
Oh, that's a good point. That the restaurants that are open are packed,
and then they have trouble with service. So
and hotels and employees. I was talking to a bellman, and by the way, we were there for business. So you're like, oh, they're gallivanting around New York City. Oh, how glamorous would that be?
Typically, I'm in New York at least once a year, if not a couple times a year.
Yeah, you go back there. You know, my kids are like, "What was New York City?" Well,
Pat, I landed. I got to my hotel at 4:30. At 4:45, I had to leave to walk to my meeting that started at 5. Had an early morning meeting. Then a Zoom call from my hotel room with you, frankly.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
And another person who was on our trip in another hotel room.
But there wasn't just the 3 of us. We would have met.
So that could have happened anywhere. And then got on a plane and waited 5 hours at the airport as our flight was delayed to come home. So the glamours of business travel.
It's not. So we're not like, wow, those guys, big hitters, New York City. Not at all. You can have it.
There's my yacht, my Lake Tahoe yacht.
But I was talking to a bellman, and he was telling me, I said, what's the difference? And he said, the international travelers are not back. He said, normally they'd have a large number of international travelers, and there's almost none to speak of.
Well, they can't.
Yeah.
Don't they have to quarantine?
But he was, so I said, did you work through all of this? And this bellman, we're talking to him for probably 10, 15.
A hotel bellman?
Yes, the hotel bellman. And I don't
Were
know.
they open the whole time?
He said that they were open almost the whole time, but he said, he would get off work late at night. And he said walking home through the middle of New York City with no one around was very, very scary versus lots of people around. He just said it was really, really frightening, which I found pretty interesting. So anyway, the economy is recovering, and this is now a travel show. I'm gonna admit, I had an hour and a half break in the middle of one day, and I went.
You were back in New York a couple days, right?
Yes, but I had some meetings. But I went to the Museum of Modern Art. Call me ignorant, but I don't get it.
The modern art?
Yeah, I don't get a lot of it. Some of it's absolutely beautiful, but some of it is just perplexing to me. One piece of art was a full Coke bottle, a half a Coke bottle, and an empty Coke bottle in a row, and it was supposed to represent something. And I thought, man,
You couldn't get it?
I didn't understand
it. Sit there and look at it for a while?
Yes. And it didn't mean anything to me.
Still meant nothing to you.
Nothing. Anyway, I don't get it. But some of the art was beautiful, and some of
You're
it
not
was
a
just
big
plain...
collector of modern art, I'm guessing.
Not unless they sell it at Target or Costco.
High quality art at Costco.
At Costco. If they sell it there, I own it. Anyway, let's go on with the show.
All right. If you want to be part of the program, we love taking your calls. And if you want to join us, 833-99-WORTH is the number. 833-999-6784 is our numeric number. And I got to tell you, we're back in our office is kind of open, right?
But our advisors are now meeting with new clients in offices.
In offices.
Across the whole U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's still a lot of people that I don't think we've officially said you've got to come back.
I think it's August 15th is the official date.
It was April.
I know, but the last email I saw from HR was August 15th.
I kind of know we're back because someone had, as a thank you, delivered some of those bundt cakes.
And they were
in the break room. And it's like now it's making me.
We're not completely back because there was only like 24 of them. There were still a half dozen left, and if it was completely back,
it would have been gone in 5 minutes.
You wouldn't have even got it all the way into the break room.
Existed.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Let's take some calls here. We're going to talk with Chris. Chris, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hey, good morning, I guess it is over there, or maybe good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
I'm in the sweet spot between being retired and before I have to take RMDs. I'm going to be 64 at the end of this year. My wife's going to be 63 in December. And what we're trying to do is some Roth conversions so we can optimize the conversions yet minimize our taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So let me paint a little color here. We get about $60,000 to $80,000 a year in dividends, interest, rental, all that kind of stuff. And last year we did about $115,000 Roth conversion. So we're trying to stay under the Medicare premium where it jumps up. I think that's $176K, which is about the 22% tax bracket. But my question becomes, would it make more sense for me to just forget about the Medicare limits and just increase my conversions so my AGI is more like in the 24% bracket, which I think is about 326.
How much is in your IRA combined, both of you?
About 3.3 million.
And you're 64 and 63. And
yeah, I mean the challenge is, if
you're not on Medicare yet.
No, but there was a 2-year look back. Yeah,
yes.
A 2-year look back. So this past year, I tried to keep it under the 176, and I'll do that again this year.
Yeah, there's the look back, but I think though, and correct me if I'm wrong, going forward, that if your income did not exceed those limits over that year, that they'll refund you the cash.
Here's my challenge. Here's my problem, I think, or maybe my opportunity, whatever. But if it's 3.3 mil now, and just say you average 8 or 10% return over the next, whatever it is, almost 8 years, that's probably going to double.
Well,
so when you have to,
I would not plan for if it doubles in the next 8 years, that would be statistically extremely rare.
Yes, but with the numbers you gave us, yes, it would double. But it's not realistic to get an 8 to 10. Let's say it goes up by half, so you're at now 4 point.
But you're taking withdrawals along the way.
Yeah, you're 4 point.
I get it. You've got a real problem at age 72.
Yeah, but regardless, even if it goes up, if you're only taking 170,
I understand. It's a problem.
We love the way you're addressing it at exactly the right time. In fact, we run radio ads at certain markets, and we actually talked about the sweet spot, which is what you refer to it as the sweet spot. This is the sweet spot.
Probably a lot of other areas of life that are sweet spot, other than the time you can convert some money to
like the first time you fall in love or have a baby.
Right, that's right. First time you're a grandparent, maybe. That would be the sweet spot.
Okay.
Anyway, what state do you live in, Chris?
We're in Florida.
Oh, beautiful.
But we're probably going to relocate to Texas at the end of this year.
Well, same number.
Yeah, no taxes.
Yep.
So what you're doing is making how much do you have in your Roth now?
Only about $500,000.
We also need to weigh the statistical likelihood of some portion of, first of all, the income tax structure can change to where we have a value-added tax or some other sort of tax. There could be some sort of limits on Roth withdrawals. Those are things that are unknown. Right? And what we're looking at now is you look at the current tax rates and you're thinking tax rates are going to go up for me. I'm going to take advantage of converting at a lower rate today.
And
right?
You're thinking, does it make sense for me to move from the 22 to 24% bracket in order to do more?
And are you paying the taxes out of outside savings, or is it coming from the IRA itself?
Outside savings.
Perfect.
And how much money do you have in outside savings?
About I think around $3 million.
I would convert.
I
would convert.
I would do exactly what you're thinking about.
Exactly.
Because the Medicare, it'll cost you, but if you figure out the effective tax rate, if you add that in and the effective tax rate, it's pretty negligible compared to your overall tax bill.
Yeah. I would add. I would move myself to the top of the 24% bracket.
It's a prudent plan, and no one knows exactly what's going to happen in the future with taxes.
Okay, let's make some assumptions. Are taxes going to go up?
For Chris, yes.
Are taxes going to stay the same?
They're not going to stay the same.
Are they going to go down?
I don't think. Not for Chris.
Yeah. Okay. Chris?
They might for the majority of Americans,
but not
based
for
upon
Chris.
the bills that are going out.
Not
right
for
now.
Chris. I mean, there could very well be a wealth tax for you, Chris.
Or an excise tax. There used to be an excise tax on 401k withdrawals, pension withdrawals larger than $750. 15% excise tax.
Yeah, the one I'm more worried about is, the eventual step up in basis. That's the one I'm worried about.
Well, that's going to happen.
Well, that's not an eventual. That's not going to happen. You can't say that so emphatically.
Okay. In my opinion, they're going to get rid of the step up in basis. What they can't do is they can't keep the capital, the estate taxes and the step up in basis on the same asset, but they can change one or the other of them. And I would expect that.
I'm okay with changing the amount. But the step up in basis, that just kills.
Yeah, I understand. Have you started gifting to relatives or?
I'm waiting until I'm 65, and I'm going to give my 3 kids some money.
Why are you waiting?
You also could consider something like a charitable remainder trust for a highly appreciated asset you have. I would look at some other planning techniques while you're doing this.
And I don't know if I would be waiting to gift to your relatives.
I just want to make it tied to something special. When I turn 65,
okay,
they can start counting it later.
Well, I'll tell you what, just give them a little and see how they act.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right.
Do I have time for?
Fire away.
For another quick?
Sure.
Hey, so I've heard you guys talk about high net worth individuals like this. You should take your Social Security now. Our strategy has been, my wife will take it at 66 in 8 months, and I'll take it at 70. Do you think we ought to take it right now?
I had this discussion with someone, they were kind of debating with me on it. Like I have no idea what's going to happen in the future, but if it were me, I'm 54, so I've got a few years to go. But if it were me, and I'm not going to disclose my assets, but it's whatever. It's at the point where I would be concerned of having a reduction in benefit. So if it were me, I would take it as soon as I could.
Chris, I would take it as soon as I could. Because who do they tax more? People without money or people with money?
Yeah, I understand that.
Right? Who do they take benefits away from? People that need them or people that could live just fine without them?
Every other entitlement is some sort of means testing to it.
Every other one.
And all the ones that are being introduced right now have some sort of means testing to it.
Except for Social Security.
Except for Social Security. And
so
that's just me.
All right.
It's just you're just rolling the dice. If you wait till 70, you are betting that Congress is not going to change the benefits for you.
Between now and the time of your death.
That's your bet.
Yeah, I'm also betting I'm going to live a relatively long life.
Well, you'll be fine either way. No one listening to this radio show or podcast is worried about you making it through without enough money. So the question is, the reason you have money is...
I think he means that he's expecting to collect Social Security for many years.
No, I get that. But that's a bet that's based on your life expectancy, not changes in legislation.
Correct.
I'm amazed there's so little writing about the potentiality of reduction in benefits for high net worth retirees. I just don't know why it's not there. Because it's been introduced in the past by Republican senators. So anyway, appreciate the call, Chris, and wish you well. To be part of the program, 833-99-WORTH is the number. That's 833-999-6784. And let's talk now with Todd. Todd, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hello, Chris. Hi, Pat.
How you doing, Todd?
It's Scott and Pat,
I'm doing
but appreciate
pretty
the
good.
call. What can we do for you?
I am 53 years old, and I recently got married to a wonderful wife, and we're about to sell her house. We put it on the market, and we stand to get about $100,000 off of the sale of it after we pay the rest of her mortgage. She has nothing in savings, and I divorced several years back, and didn't make a lot of really good sound decisions financially. So I'm not doing great. I'm pretty much debt free. She's got about $10,000 in debt, from what I understand, and what we're seeing, and I have a mediocre retirement as it stands right now. So I think I want to know what's the best thing to do with this $100,000 we're about to get.
Well, you said she's going to sell her house, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is separate property because it was amassed, that net worth was amassed prior to marriage. So
correct.
You used the word we. If you were sitting in my office, I would actually explain the difference between community property and separate property, and then I'd leave the room for 5 minutes while you guys discussed it among yourselves. So do you own a home you're living in now?
I'm making a mortgage payment on it, but yeah, she moved in with me, and I'm making payments on it.
And what do you make? What do you owe on the mortgage?
I owe $189, and right.
We lost you.
Are you driving through a tunnel?
So the value of the house is now. So
what's the value of the home? We lost you there. What's the value of the home?
$260,000.
Okay, so you've got $60,000 in equity in it. She has $100,000.
Correct.
And do you have children still at home?
No, I had 2 children. They're both grown, and she never had children. She's never been married, never had children.
So this is what I would consider doing. I'd have her pay off the debt. And then I
Half what debt?
she has 10,000 in debt. Just pay that off, and make sure there's no other debt out there. You said that we know of is the words you used. She has $10,000 in debt, which you know of or we know of. So I'd make sure that there wasn't other debt hanging out there. And then I'd probably actually have her take $60,000.
I was thinking the same thing
of that and put it down on the mortgage of the house. Re-amortize the mortgage over a 10-year period.
In other words, so she gets $100,000, takes $10,000, pays off her debt, takes $60,000 and plunks it against the mortgage. That way you both have, and you can argue about what the value of the house is and what it would be after commissions or whatever, but that way you both have the same amount of equity into the house.
You have equal ownership of the house and then retitle the house into both your names.
Okay.
Right? And then
that's a clean way to do it if you're in fact saying, sometimes at second marriages, people say, I don't want to really get like a little burn. Like, I'm not doing this again. We're going to keep our assets separate. That just happens.
But this way you're both coming into the house in the same value. Whether yours was accrued by appreciation doesn't actually matter. It's if she put $60,000. What's the interest rate on the mortgage today?
2.6.
Okay. So then what you want to do is do a calculation of what payments you would need to make in order to pay the remaining balance of the payments. And you said you owed $189 on it, so you'll owe $129, and do a calculation to figure out what the payments will need to be on a monthly basis to pay it off in 10 years. So that it's paid off by year age 63. Then maximize both yours and her 401k. There's going to be, at the end of this, you're going to actually have approximately $30,000 left in cash. You're going to put that in a savings account. Put it in a high-yield savings account with an online bank, and don't touch it. It is absolutely for the most dire of emergencies. And an emergency isn't an RV or a boat or a vacation. Those are not emergencies.
Okay.
All righty? Scott?
Okay.
I totally concur.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we were both.
And by the way, so it sounds like you haven't done a lot for saving for retirement, nor does she. Obviously, that's not ideal at 53. You still have time.
Yeah, and she just started her own business. She was a hygienist for many years, and she's had a lot of back problems that keep her from doing it.
And what's her new business?
Her new business is she makes wallets and purses. She's quite good at it. She's an artist, and she's actually already doing really well.
Good. So you also may want to make sure that you actually put a trust in place, a living trust for the both of you. That recognizes your children and the right to stay in the home.
Yeah, the challenge without doing some proper planning is, let's say you got hit by a truck tomorrow. All your assets could go to your wife, which might be good, but then your kids could be disinherited inadvertently.
Right.
And by having the right kind of documents in place now could ensure that your wife has access to the income off whatever assets you've got, but that the principal passes to your kids, should that be your wish.
All righty?
Okay.
All right. Appreciate the call.
Yeah. Wish you well, Todd, on that.
Isn't that funny? I knew exactly. I looked at you and you were like, this is how you would handle this. And notice we didn't actually talk about investments to speak of at all for that financial planning question.
When you think about, we've certainly worked with enough people over the year, and particularly second marriages. And sometimes people have a really nasty divorce they've gone through, and they've been scarred and a little gun shy and some things. And it's it makes a difference how you get things structured.
Oh, absolutely. And as he started the call, he married a wonderful lady. That's how marriages are supposed to start. He didn't go up and say, I married this so-so. She's all right.
I went to Valerie and I went to a wedding in Nashville actually we were there a year ago for the official wedding, but it became very small because of COVID. But my wife's like an aunt to this gal, like a big sister, whatever. So we went. It was a very small wedding. We went into the small wedding a year ago, and then 1 year later, on the same date, they had a big party, just like a wedding reception. Well, she's pregnant now with twins.
Oh,
very pregnant, right? So her dad gets up for the toast and says, "I know this looks like a shotgun wedding." She's got, I don't know where she got the new wedding dress because it was a full-on wedding dress, but
That's funny. Well, Valerie's like an aunt to a bunch of these kids because she went to Atlanta recently for a girl that Valerie was like an aunt to. So your wife is like an aunt to all these people.
It's the babysitters. They get these babysitters, and then you end up with these close relationships with them. We've had young gals live with us for years. I mean, not all at once, but I mean,
just
couple summers for this one, a couple years for this other one.
Not as an employee, just because they need a place to live.
Yes, they need a place to live. Going through college, trying to get back their lives back going, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we're taking a quick break. When we come back, let's continue on with some more calls, and we'll talk about some more financial topics on this Independence Day weekend special edition of I don't know if it's special.
Is it special?
Allworth's Money Matters. Stick around for more.
Can't get enough of Allworth's Money Matters? Visit allworthfinancial.com/radio to listen to the Money Matters podcast.
Welcome back to Allworth's Money Matters. Scott Hansen.
Pat McLean. Welcome back.
We need a big welcome back.
Do we?
I know we have more podcast listeners than terrestrial radio listeners.
So did they run a little ad between the?
I have no idea.
That would be something we should know. Speaking of podcast, if you haven't rated our podcast, will you please? We're almost 500 5-star or 4-star, whatever the high star reviews you could get.
Someone told me, a marketing person gave me a number, and I looked, and there was that many people, and then the number went down. I don't know if they removed. I don't know this stuff.
I went and read a bunch of the reviews. Unfortunately, I'm Irish, so I only read the negative ones.
Oh, nice! So you can feel even worse about yourself. What a loser you are. Your life's amounted to nothing.
I call those people up. What are you talking about? Write a negative review.
So, I don't think I've ever written a negative review about.
I can't.
Not a podcast, for crying out loud.
Even a Yelp or anything. I can't write a negative review. As mad as I have been at some businesses, I will not write a negative review.
You know what I've done a number of times? On read a story online, that opinion that I'm kind of getting, and I go to the comment section, and I've typed in a comment, and I'm like, I don't really want to post this stuff.
Yeah, and then you're...
I don't. I never do. I don't know if I've ever posted a comment.
Yeah. And the reason I don't... Let the market take care of itself. My opinion of a restaurant, the market will take care of itself at some point in time. If a restaurant has bad food or bad service...
Yeah, but if you are in a town somewhere new, don't you look at, go to Yelp to see where to eat? Or look at Open Table and see reviews and stuff?
I did the same way my dad did when we were little.
Where's the closest Denny's?
No, and look where all the big rigs are parked and eat there. I'm joking.
Oh.
No, yeah, I do look at Yelp in towns, but anyway. Let's do a financial show. What do you say?
Yeah, we're going to go back to the phone.
Let's do our numbers. 1-833-99-WORTH. That's 999-6784 to join the show.
We're talking with Chris in Colorado. Chris, you're with Allworth's Money Matters. Oh, I got to hit the button. Hi, Chris. You're with Allworth.
Yes. How are you today?
We're fantastic.
Great. It's a beautiful day in Colorado right now.
Oh, good.
So,
isn't it every day a beautiful day in Colorado?
Pretty much,
okay.
Yeah. Except when you got to go to work, but I don't do that anymore.
There,
perfect
good for you.
What can we do to help you?
Right. Well, I'm retired. I'm 76 years old. Okay, and last year during the pandemic, as I was sitting watching my the Scots Sox tank, so to speak, I felt very good about that because I started buying in.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. I thought you were going to say the opposite. I was just getting a knot in my stomach.
No, good for you. Good for you.
Anyway, I got it. Having a lot of time on my hands, I started looking at my financial situation, and I said, I got a lot of money tied up in home equity. I said, I'd like to put that money to work. So I got a mortgage. And a 30-year mortgage and took out about $330,000 to invest in conservative things, primarily dividend-paying stocks that will cover the house payment, interest, and principal. And that's working out. But I hear you guys talk a lot about mortgages and people retiring and pay off your mortgage. Well, I had that done 12 years ago. It was paid off, so I had that time frame. But the money that I'm using off of that basically mortgage loan, although it's not tax deductible, I understand, because it's not going to home improvements. So I'm looking at that and saying, was it a good decision based upon my circumstances? So let me give you some background here. I've got a lot of savings stuff. I've got $168,000 in a Roth IRA. I've got, $545,000 in traditional IRAs. I got $100,000 in an annuity that I purchased back a few years ago. So I'm not needing.
And the $330,000 you took from the mortgage, where's that?
That's in the market.
Okay,
yeah,
but
that's not on one of the list of assets.
That's in a TOD, not a taxable account.
And how much is in that taxable account?
Let's see, in $396,000.
And when you said you put it in dividend-paying stocks, how many different stocks are in that? Comprise that?
I've got about, in total, 80 stocks, and about 65 of them are paying dividends. Others
and
are.
You've done the research to purchase all these 80 stocks?
Yeah, well, I got.
And how are the Roth and IRA invested? Do you have any bond or cash in those?
There's the Roth is the Roth and the rest of the IRAs are with Ameriprise Financial.
I understand, but inside of them, is there any bond or cash inside of them?
There's. I really don't know from this.
Okay.
I've been told that yes.
Okay.
Let me ask you this question. Right. So you've got almost, let's call it $400,000 in your TOD account, right?
Right.
Do you feel the need to take a loan against those stocks to unleash the equity and let the equity work for you, the same way you viewed your house?
No.
Why?
You can. I can
do what?
You could put a margin account on that brokerage account that you call the TOD, transfer on death is what that stands for, but you have a brokerage. And my guess is you have it either at Schwab or TD Ameritrade or Fidelity or someplace like or E-Trade, correct?
Right.
Okay, you can borrow up to 50% of that
just
value.
The way you borrowed against your house.
Just like that. So you can borrow another $200,000 against that $400,000 in that brokerage
buy even
account.
more dividend-paying stocks.
And you could buy even more dividend-paying stocks. What do you think of that?
I think that's a remarkably good idea that I had not invested.
It didn't work. It didn't work, Scott. It didn't work. Here's what.
Don't do that, by the way,
Chris. Here you came at this a little bit differently than what we would have come at it. And here's the way we would have come at it, or any of our.
Let me ask you this: do you have a pension?
Oh yes.
How big's your pension?
About that stuff. I've got. Let's see, I've got 65,000 coming in from my pension and Social Security each year.
Between both of them?
Between both.
Are you married?
No.
Okay.
And
you have children?
No. Yeah, one's a doctor, and the other one kind of hangs around here and works and helps me. But,
so here's how we would have come at it. We would have actually looked inside your Roth IRA and your IRA and your annuity. If we wanted more exposure to the equity markets, and forget whether they're dividend paying or non-dividend paying. In fact, the ones that pay the highest dividends are the ones at greatest risk, by the way, of falling in this marketplace. So we asked the question, how much equity exposure do you have in the rest of the portfolio? So you've got $168 in your Roth, $545 in your IRA, and $100,000 in an annuity. So we add those all up, and we're at about $720,000, right? If half of those are in bond, those bonds are yielding probably less than what your mortgage payment is if they're short. Maybe.
A little bit, maybe a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So you came at it a completely different way than what we would have come at it. You treated this as two different transactions, and we would have treated it as an overall financial situation. The last place I would have gone in order to increase my equity exposure is to a 76-year-old's mortgage.
But let me step back. I think before that, though, to get into the nitty-gritty of the finances, is the bigger question: what is it you're trying to accomplish here?
To what purpose?
Some growth in the overall net value of the estate, and also to pay for, extra things that I might want down the road.
But it's
take care of my kids.
So we like to think about it of probabilities of outcome, right? So right now you're in a situation, or at least you're in a situation where you had $65,000 a year of guaranteed income coming in, and you had another $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 in outside investments with a home paid for. Extreme high probability of maintaining your standard of living the rest of your life, right? Extremely high. Now you put yourself in a position where who knows what can happen with those stocks.
Exactly.
And the mortgage, the bank, regardless of what happens, the bank's going to say, hey, sorry, buddy, you're going to pay up. Like you got to pay every month, regardless of whether you want to pay us this month or have the cash this month.
Chris, if you were my dad.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes.
if you were my father, I would reverse these. I would sell these equities out immediately, pay off the mortgage, pretend it never happened. I'd sit down with a qualified financial advisor.
And it's really based upon risk versus, let's call it reward, not return, reward. Like, how is this going to make your life better? And it's on the margins, unless you want to go out and buy a yacht. If you want to go buy a big yacht, then you're doing the right thing. But I don't think you want to change your lifestyle. You probably some thrill in all of this.
Scott, what do you think? He mentioned that his advisor was at Ameriprise. What do you think that this portfolio for a 76-year-old man at Ameriprise is probably 50-50 or 60-40?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing it is pretty cookie
Unless he
cutter.
signed something saying, I understand the risks.
So the mere fact that you did this and you have a financial advisor that you're paying to give you guidance, and my guess is you probably bought the annuity from the advisor as well?
No, this was another firm. I was using it to kind of hedge, saying, okay, that money's going to be there, come hell or high water, so to speak.
You just acted completely contrary to that with the move that you made. You couldn't have been further away from that stated objective. So if you were my father, we would sell all those out, pay capital gains. I'd wait for a year and a day if I could. I'd sell them all out, and then I'd pay off the mortgage. I'd sit down with a qualified advisor. I'd reallocate the portfolios in order your existing Roth, IRA, and annuity, if appropriate, and make them more aggressive. And we would satisfy the whole objective without putting your home at risk.
I see. Okay.
Right? Because what you did was you skipped a couple steps, which is you wanted to get more aggressive, but you went to the wrong place to do it.
I see.
And the whole concept, anyway, that's our opinion. You call for our opinion. That's our opinion. And
I'm glad it turned out, because you could be calling and the account balance could have gone from 330 to 200.
We've been doing this for roughly 3 decades. Through the financial crisis, through the .com, we've seen a lot of things where people did maneuvers like this. The downturns come, they weren't able to keep the thing afloat. And look, I don't know anyone who lost a home that was paid off I certainly know enough people that lost homes that had larger mortgages on it. And again, like, two things. One is I question, like, what's the objective here? What's the reward that you are personally going to receive if it all works out, relative to the risk that you're taking? And then two, to Pat's point, if you thought, man, there's some opportunity in the marketplace, I would look for some other areas to do that, mainly increasing some stock exposure.
And by the way, you don't have the right advisor. And I'm not saying anything about Ameriprise or any other advisor.
Because if you had the right advisor, you would have had these questions with his advisor.
You would have had this discussion.
Yeah, you would have trusted him, and you would have had or her, and had a conversation saying, "Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?"
And they would have either walked you to your objective in a different manner, or said,
talked you off it,
or talked you off the cliff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. I frequently say that one of the greatest values a good financial advisor provides is keeping people from making mistakes from which they cannot recover. And although this is clearly recoverable today, we never know what tomorrow brings. And the whole concept, these mortgage companies run these ads about unleashing the equity. How is that unleashing the equity? That is the equity. Let's say you own a house, a $500,000 house, paid for.
Mm-hmm.
You have $500,000 of equity that is working for you in the fact that it participates in the appreciation of the house.
And you're not having to pay rent to live there.
You're not having to pay rent. So when you unleash that equity, you pledge your home as collateral in order to receive some cash. I don't know how that's supposed to make your life better. I don't understand.
I don't know what was leashing the equity in the first place that would cause you to unleash
You know
it.
the ads I'm talking about.
Oh,
though.
I hear them all the time.
I know.
Unleash the equity. Sometimes
that's why I did you have $400,000 in stocks. How about unleashing the equity of those?
And unfortunately,
same concept.
It backfired on us. Because
not a big fan of the margin loans, by the way.
Yes.
Because everything's fine in a rising market. Look, this is a long running bull market. We had a very short bear market, really based upon the pandemic. Set that aside. It's been a phenomenal run. I don't know where it's going to end. Nobody does. All we know is that historically, things tend to revert back to their mean. They move back to where their long-term averages are. So when the market hits a new high day after day after day, and the tech stock's going higher, and everything just keeps popping up, don't extrapolate that's going to continue for the next 5 to 10 years. Historically, it has not.
And quite frankly, what we might be seeing in the market is just too much liquidity in the market right now.
You think?
Just way too much liquidity.
This week I was reading I don't know what article I was reading about the Federal Reserve and the bond purchases they're doing.
Well, they don't even call them quantitative easing anymore. They just call it. It used to have a big name, quantitative easing. 44,
like $40 billion of mortgages each month, and another $80 billion of Treasury bonds each month. So they're loading up their balance like $1 trillion in the last year.
And at one point in time, they were buying corporates and junk.
And that's just what it is just throwing more cash in the economy. Rates are essentially zero. There's so much liquidity.
Which is causing people to reach for yield, as it did.
I don't know why the Fed isn't starting to make some moves now.
Oh, because of inflation? Because,
yeah.
They moved back a year. Whatever. We're thinking of moving in 2022, and I think, the hubris to say that. The hubris to say that we're not going to move interest rates till 2023 and that we have the hubris to say maybe 2022. What happens if inflation is at 8 or 9% in the next 6 or 8 months? You're gonna stick to your 2022 guns there?
Pat, it's a short-term inflation.
I don't believe that. You know why I don't believe it is because it actually tests the market as to what people are willing to pay. And companies don't easily give up profits.
Who's going to lower their price back down?
That's right.
I wouldn't if I were.
Not at all.
I've got a sister who has a restaurant. I said, raise your prices. I said, you survived the downturn. A lot of your competitors did not.
Did she raise the prices?
I don't know. That's what I would do if I were her. Yes. I'd raise my price. She has trouble getting labor. I would pay a little more for labor.
Raise your price.
And I'd raise my prices.
Yeah.
Which is what the rest. That's if you've gone out dining lately, it seems to me that the restaurant prices that are way up. And the ones that have figured out how to provide good service right now, they got to pay more for the help. It is inflationary.
It's inflationary.
Yeah. All right, 833-99-WORTH to join our program. That's our number to join the program. We are in San Diego talking to Marcy. Hi, Marcy. You're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We're wonderful.
We're not in San Diego, though. We're not.
That is one of those areas when I visit, I really do kind of like San Diego.
You know, I would love San Diego if there weren't the other people that live there. There's just too many people that live in San Diego.
Well, Marcy does.
We came from Brooklyn, so we feel like it's
okay. So there's almost nobody.
It's empty. What can we do for you?
My husband Joe is also listening in. So I'm 58. I hope to retire in about 4 years. Joe's 63, and he's been on Social Security disability since 2016. We moved to San Diego July of 2020, and we're currently renting. Our rent is $3,200. However, we own a 3-family brownstone in Brooklyn that we bought in 2016, and so it was our primary residence until last July. There were 2 other units in the building, so for tax purposes, it was 3/4 investment rental and a 1/4 primary home. But now, since last July,
is that 2/3, or is there 4 units on the? It's a 3-plex.
There's 3 units, but 1 unit is 2 stories.
Okay, so it was based on either square footage or rental income, right?
Yeah, it's based on square footage.
Okay.
So we'd like to buy a house in San Diego this year and take advantage of the low interest rates, and because our mortgage is already $3,200, we just need to figure out how to get a down payment for the new mortgage. So we're working with a mortgage broker, just started, to see if we can qualify for a home equity loan.
How much?
So with the New York.
How much is the brownstone worth in Brooklyn?
Right, brownstone is worth easily 2.5.
And what do you owe on it?
We owe $1,034,000. We just refinanced last year, so our interest rate is 3.5%.
You owe $1 million, basically. Is that what you said?
Yeah, $1,034,000.
And what is the net that flows out of that brownstone? The net income after expenses. How much are you clearing a month?
After we're using up everything to pay other bills, but the rents are $9,600. The mortgage is $5,493. We use $700 more to pay utilities, and then we're paying off another home improvement loan with $400. So anyway, we use all that money up. But
and so what did you pay for this?
$1.2 million.
And you bought this in 2016?
Yeah, 2016.
5 years ago. It's doubled.
How much would a house cost you in San Diego that you want to purchase?
Easily $800.
And what other retirement income do you have? Savings?
My IRA retirement savings is, along with Joe's, is $1,210,000 as of today.
Okay. And how much money in cash?
Not much.
Have you thought about just selling the brownstone out entirely? And
what do you think you should do?
Yeah, because we're running into that 2 out of 5 years we would have to sell or lose that $500,000 capital gain deduction. So that's our dilemma. I mean, the building's generating like $4,000 a month for us, and we're using that money. We're using $3,000 of that money to pay our rent in San Diego.
So
I mean, part of my thought is you're
lucky. You're done.
Yeah.
Right?
But we're being backed into a corner because of this capital gain.
No. You have been blessed. Okay. You have been blessed by capital appreciation in a market that no one would have ever imagined.
It feels to me like 2007 when people would like, well, I don't want to pay the capital gains on the real estate. And you're like, the thing just did phenomenally well. Pay your taxes and run. And then things fell in value.
Marcy and Joe?
Yeah.
You're 58 and 63. You want to retire in a couple years.
Joe's on disability,
so
Joe's on disability. So he doesn't have a lot of options of going out and earning income in the future if something goes south.
What have we paid this thing on? What have we sold it, paid the capital gains, took 100% of the proceeds, bought a new house, mortgage free, done.
And have cash in the bank.
And have a little bit of cash left in the bank.
And you got a $1.2 million IRA. It's like.
You're done. You hit it. And you have no more, you don't have risk in the markets. It's.
I mean, yeah, that's one option, but we just.
Well, in my opinion, that's
planning on selling this soon.
Of course, you weren't planning on it. That's why you called us.
Yeah.
Look, you would not today living in San Diego say, why don't we go, let's go to Brooklyn and buy a brownstone with a few units in it that we can rent out. I know we don't have 2.5 million, but let's go borrow $1 million and rent this out, and we'll get a little bit of free cash flow each month, but not a lot. Or you wouldn't put yourself in that position.
If you had that $1 million in equity that you have in the house, you wouldn't actually go buy that brownstone, right? If you had $1 million sitting in the bank, what would you do with it? You'd probably pay cash for a house because you're 58 and 63.
Mm-hmm.
If you
right.
And we're just talking about risk mitigation. You're talking about getting rich. I'm talking about you not being poor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd much rather not be poor than rich. I don't know about you. I'd prefer to be rich, but if I'm not going to get rich, I'd rather not be poor.
Right.
Good trade-off. Good trade-off.
I know. I'm breaking out in a rash from this.
Well, look, home values doubling in 5 years is an anomaly. That is not historic. It's not sustainable.
How old is the brownstone?
Old.
Oh, it's old.
Yes.
They don't build brownstones anymore.
Okay, yes. Yeah. So we can't even list all the things that could go wrong with the brownstone that would ruin your retirement.
True.
We can't.
Definitely true.
So we're running out of time here, but I'm glad you guys called. Truly, it's to Pat's point. You guys, you sell this,
you're done.
Capital gain is much better than a capital loss. You can go other periods of times when the real estate had losses. Pay the gains.
You could wait a year and maybe it falls in value.
Some of it's going to be tax-free because of your primary residence exclusion, and then you're in good shape. So anyway, we're out of time. Hey, there's our featured article at allworthfinancial.com right now is close to retiring. Well, beware of student loan debt. So if that's of interest to you, it's on our website. And we're out of time, but it's been great being here with you. We'll see you next week. This is Allworth's Money Matters.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.